إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له من يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد. Inshallah ta'ala, in continuing our study of Arba'in al-Nawawiyya, we have reached hadith number 20. And inshallah ta'ala, just a reminder for those who are memorizing and complete the memorizing of the 40 hadith, inshallah ta'ala, there will be a gift, a knowledge-based gift, inshallah ta'ala, for those students. As an encouragement, this is a means of tashji' al-hifz. لأن العلم ما يحفظ. Knowledge is what is memorized. Knowledge in general is what is memorized. We can study many things, but what stays with us is what we memorize. What we benefit from is those masail, those matters that we memorize. If we don't memorize, then we find that sometimes we're asked regarding a matter that we've studied and we're not able to give clarity, or the knowledge that we have is almost of no benefit. And the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam كان يتعوذ من علم لا ينفع. He used to seek refuge from knowledge that has no benefit. Knowledge that has no benefit. And knowledge that has no benefit, from the knowledge that has no benefit, is knowledge that doesn't produce action. Knowledge that doesn't bear fruits of action. So the main goal, why we seek knowledge in the first place, أولاً رفع الجهل عن نفسه, is that a person removes ignorance from themselves. ثم العمل, then a person acts upon that knowledge. ثم الدعوة إليه, and then a person calls others to that knowledge, and he teaches it, propagates it. And the Prophet Muhammad said, بَلِّغُوا عَنِّي وَلَوْ آيَةً, propagate regarding me, even if it's just one ayah. Also, then we have sabr, have patience. Patience upon the adha, the harm that comes with being a person who treads this path. The Prophet Muhammad faced harm and hardship. Those upon the way of the Prophet Muhammad will face harm and hardship. Sometimes from those who are closest to you. Sometimes from those who are closest to you. Sometimes from those who are from the same community as you. Sometimes, unfortunately, from the diseases of the hearts of the people, when they see a person of how they have been for the last 10 years or more and how they have changed, they have ill feeling in their heart towards these people. And they don't accept the benefit that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them. Rather, they have hasad, have enmity, yet they do not know أَمْ تَحْسُدُونَ مَا آتَاهُمُ اللَّهُ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ. Are they having enmity or hasad towards that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them from His bounty? So this is the dangers of a person not purifying their intention and purifying their heart and having a deficiency in their iman when it comes to loving for their brother that which they love for themselves. Inshallah. So هذا هو المهم. So inshallah ta'ala الآن وصلنا إلى حديث العشرين عن أبي مسعود عقبة ابن عمر الأنصاري البدري رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إن مما أدرك الناس من كلام النبوة الأولى إذا لم تستحي فاصنع ما شئت. رواه البخاري. It mentions in this hadith what has been known from the words of prophecy, from the earliest of prophecy, is that if you do not have shyness, shame, or modesty, then do as you please. Do as you please. Now, this hadith was collected in Bukhari, and there is a number of benefits that a person can take from this hadith. When it says An-Nabuwwat al-Ula, this is regarding the previous nations. What has been known from the previous nations, not only from the nation of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, this ummah, but from all those nations that had preceded, it was known. This has been something known among them. If you are not shy, then do as you please. And we'll discuss the types of shyness as we go through the hadith, inshallah ta'ala. What it mentions, الحياء هو عبارة عن الانفعال يحدث للإنسان عند فعل ما لا يجمله أو يجمله ولا يزينه فينكسر ويحصل الحياء. Al-Haya is from the actions of the heart. Who can remember an evidence for this? Al-Haya'u is from the actions of the heart. Who can remember or mention evidence for this?
This hadith that Iman is broken into 70 or 70 branches?
70 odd.
70 odd branches. The highest of them is La ilaha illallah. And the lowest of them is to remove something from the path and
remove something harmful.
Remove something harmful from the path.
Rahmakallah.
Is also from Iman.
Good. وَالْحَيَاء شُعْبَةٌ مِنَ الْإِيمَانِ. And shyness is a branch of Iman. And shyness is an action of where? The heart. You don't touch shyness. You see, shyness is an action that occurs within the heart. It's a feeling, it's a reaction, an internal reaction a person gets when they do something they know may not beautify them as a person or may be looked down upon. You see, it's a feeling that you get of shame even, because it can be understood in both of these ways. That a person is shy in general. Shyness has its place within Islam, but also modesty, that a person has that self-respect, that when they do certain actions, they have a feeling within their heart, this doesn't feel too right. If the people were to see me doing this, it would not look good on my behalf. This is also understood as haya, shyness, and that's why it says in the hadith, إِذَا لَمْ تَسْتَحِي فَاصْنَعْ مَا شِئْتَ. If you do not have this modesty, this shame, then do as you wish. Do as you please. Why? Because see, when you don't have this modesty, this shame, you'll see it among the people. Some of the people do anything and they have no regard. They don't think about it. They don't care about the reaction of the people. They're still going to do it. This person has lost that part of Iman. Or that person doesn't have it at all sometimes. And this has become more evident as time is going on. Because no time comes except the time after is worse. And we're seeing it so much more now that people are losing modesty. There's also a time where this shyness is dispraised. When is shyness dispraised? Who knows? When you're seeking knowledge. لا يتعلمان المستحي والمتكبر لا يتعلمان. The one who is arrogant and the one who is shy, these two people don't learn. So when it comes to seeking knowledge, there's no shyness. You'll find in the seerah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the sisters of the Sahabiyat would ask questions that some people be scared to ask today. They'll be shy to ask today, but there's no shyness in knowledge. When you're asking questions especially, you have to be direct. Otherwise you're not going to get the answer that you need. In that situation, there is no shyness. And there's no being arrogant. Some people may have studied this book once, 40 hadith. Some people belittle this book. Why you people study 40 hadith? 40 hadith, if people knew the value of this book, because Imam al-Nawawi has explained, Sahih Muslim, of the best explanations up until today, still has written another book called Al-Bahja, or something like this, which is another book in hadith. Another book, Riyad al-Salihin, that many of you know. He has many books, but then he selected 40 hadith specifically, not accidentally. He intentionally chose these 40 hadith as a means for a person to gather a general understanding of all the foundations of the religion. All the foundations of the religion. When we look at the 40 hadith, we find those hadith regarding the belief of the Muslim, the aqidah. Then we have fiqh. Then we have adab, manners. It gathers everything that you need as a foundation to build upon. And these 40 carefully selected hadith that Ibn Rajab added 10 to. So there's 50. But from what is not in the Arabic language, when they say 40, this can be 38, 42, 44. It doesn't mean it's necessarily 40 specifically. Just like when you hear 70, when the Arabs say something like 70, this is meaning something that is many, not just 70, literally. It means more than that. There's many branches. It's an expression to show that there's many of something. And this is something that you learn as you learn the Arabic language. So it mentions that إِذَا لَمْ تَسْتَحِي يَحْتَمِلُ مَعْنَيَيْنِ. It has two meanings. It mentions المعنى الأول إذا لم تكن ذا حياء صنعت ما تشاء فيكون الأمر هنا بمعنى الخبر لأنه لا حياء عنده يفعل الذي يخل بالمروءة والذي لا يخل. So it mentions that the first meaning is that if a person doesn't possess any form of modesty, then they will do as they please. And this is like the one who has no shyness, so they do that which goes against. The muru'ah is not necessarily something that is haram. But for example, in some countries, you can never lead the salah if you don't have something on your head. You can never give a dars if you're not covering your head. لماذا هذا يخالف المروءة? You find, for example, in some countries like North Africa, for example, the Maghrib and Jazair, they wear the thobe that is short-sleeved. In some countries, you can't wear this outside. This is considered a house thobe. You see? So in those circumstances, these are referred to as ما يخالف المروءة. It goes against the muru'ah, the general conduct of the people. You see? For example, you could wear a vest. You're allowed to wear a vest. It covers your aura. The aura for the man is from where? His belly button to his knees. You can wear a vest and some 3/4 lengths. But this is going to what? يخالف المروءة. It's going to be frowned down upon, not because it's haram, but because this goes against the general conduct of the Muslims in this community, for example. You understand this term now, muru'ah? طيب. It mentioned the other meaning, إذا كان الفعل لا يستحيا منه فاصنعه ولا تبال. It mentions if the action, a person is not shy of this action, they will do anything they want, but despite that, they won't even care. They won't care, they'll just do it. They don't care less. They couldn't care less. You will see this a lot among who? Al-Kuffar. Those who la iman lahum. Those who have no iman. You will see this, especially when in this country, in the summertime. They will have no shyness in doing the worst of things, the worst of sins, and they don't care. Friday alone, even in the winter, you go outside after Isha and you walk this street, you will see the fawahish that they are doing, وَلَا يُبَالُونَ, and they do not give any regard. They don't care. Now this is when a person has no shyness or modesty at all. At all. This is the second type. So it's not that it goes against the conduct. They don't care what it goes against. They're doing whatever they like, because for them, this is all this shine, modesty stuff, this doesn't exist. This is all irrelevant to them. So it mentions from the benefits of this hadith that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam informed us of those things that were known from the nations that had preceded us. As I mentioned, إِنَّ مِمَّا أَدْرَكَ النَّاسُ مِنْ كَلَامِ النُّبُوَّةِ الْأُولَى. What has been known from the speech of the first prophecy, from the first days of prophecy, of prophethood, is that if you were not a person of modesty and shyness, then you do as you wish. So I mentioned that وما سبق عن الأمم السابقة إما أن ينقل عن طريق الوحي في القرآن أو في السنة أو يكون مما تناقله الناس. It mentions, as for those matters regarding the nations, the that preceded us, then this is being transmitted by way of the Quran, by way of revelation, which is either the Quran or the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, or that which is being transmitted among people over time. ما تناقله الناس, يعني that which has been transmitted between people over a period of time. However, when it comes to this regard, it mentions فأما القرآن ففي قوله عز وجل بل تؤثرون الحياة الدنيا والآخرة خير وأبقى إن هذا لفي الصحف الأولى صحف إبراهيم وموسى. So here's an explicit mention of this. Allah mentioned in the English rendering, rather they prefer the worldly life, whilst the hereafter is better for them and everlasting. Indeed, this is in the first scriptures. This is from the first scriptures, i.e. that was revealed to those who came before us, before this ummah. For example, the scriptures of who? Ibrahim and Musa alayhim as-salam. So here is an example of it being mentioned in the Quran, something regarding from the characteristics of those who came before us, from the information of the ummah that came before us. Again, كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الصِّيَامُ كَمَا كُتِبَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ. Siyam has been ordained upon you as it was ordained upon those who came before you. So now we know from the Quran that upon the nations who preceded us, upon them was what? As-siyam. They had to fast. You see? So this is explicit mention of the conditions of those who came before us by way of the Quran. Then it mentions by way of the Sunnah, as is this example of this hadith. By way of the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad, this hadith is the example. But it mentions, as for that which has came regarding Bani Israel, the children of Israel, then there is three things that are to be mentioned here. Al-Qism al-Awwal, ما شهد شرعنا بصحته فهو صحيح مقبول. That which our Sharia, Islam, that which is the Wahy, the Quran and the Sunnah, has affirmed its authenticity, then it's authentic and accepted. Now, secondly, that which our Sharia has affirmed that it is falsehood. That it is falsehood. For example, those who came before us, من النصارى, ادعوا, they claim that Al-Masih ibn Allah. وَنَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنْ ذَلِكَ. They said that the Masih, Isa alayhi salam, is the son of Allah. Now the Quran has come as what? To reject this. See, but this is something that became widespread from the nation that preceded us. Now the Quran affirmed that this is batil. This is falsehood. This is not authentic. Rather, this is of the worst transgressions that those who preceded us have made. How do we know this? From the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So either it affirms its authenticity or it affirms its falsehood. And then we have that which we do not know, so ending at tawaqquf. We do not affirm, nor do we reject. We don't say anything, we don't take a position. Say, Wallahu a'lam. Wallahu a'lam. And some books of hadith and in books of tafsir, they refer to this as Isra'iliyat. Isra'iliyat. The narrations about Bani Israel. So also what is mentioned, and there's some benefits from this, it mentions within the Quran, from the time of Dawood alayhi salam, when he entered his place of prayer, he began to pray and he closed the door. بدأ أن يصلي وأغلق الباب. He started to pray and he closed the door. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had made Dawood a Khalifa fil ard. And he made him a Hakim, a ruler in the earth. to rule between people, to judge between people. So some people had come that had a case. They came to Dawood alayhi salam to gain judgment, to get judgment in their case. And when they came to him, they found the door was locked. He had closed the door, as is mentioned by Shaykh Uthaymeen rahimahullah. So they climbed over the wall, and there was more than two. There was more than two. There was a few people, however, two people had dispute. And it says, فَفَزَعَ مِنْهُمْ. So when they climbed over the wall, and the wall was in a state of ibadah, state of prayer, they kind of shook him up, because it wasn't expected. You see? And قالوا لا تخاف. They said, don't be scared. وهذا يدل على أنهم أكثر من اثنين. This mentioned, قالوا لا تخاف. This alludes to there was more than two people. There was more than two people. However, those who were in dispute, it mentions two. فقالوا خصمان بغى بعضنا على بعض. Two people in dispute have oppressed some of us. Some have been oppressed by others. إن هذا أخي له 99 نعجة. This brother of ours, he has 99 sheep, has 99 lambs. Yeah. وهؤلاء خصوم يقول إن هذا أخي. Now I mentioned, subhanallah, in this fa'idah, when they came to Dawood, now the Sheikh mentioned this story, not in terms of being shy, but in terms of stories that came from the nations that preceded us, and what we can actually learn from them. So in this situation, they've come to Dawood alayhi salam to judge between two people who have got an issue. The one who has claimed that he's been oppressed, he didn't say this person, this oppressor, he said akhi. He said my brother. He referred to the one who has done him wrong, in his opinion, as being his brother. Now the Shaykh, he mentioned, look at this lofty adab, mannerism of those who came before us compared to today. Someone does you something wrong, they're no longer your brother in Islam. As is it, you treat them as if they're a kafir almost. How many times have we seen this? How many times have we seen this? How many times have we seen someone not have the fear in their heart that they will actually lift their hand to physically harm another Muslim, and they are Muslim? Yet this person who came to Dawood alayhi salam referred to the one who has wronged him as being his brother still. He didn't say mujrim, zalim, this is an oppressive criminal. He said akhi, my brother. Yet when it comes to us, the brotherhood thing is removed. So already we have issue in the islah from the beginning. We have issue in making peace and rectification from the beginning. Why? Because we have nullified brotherhood between us. So even when a person says, ittaqillah antum akhuwa fil Islam, that person doesn't even see that anymore. When you remind a person, fear Allah, this is your brother in Islam, bainakum huquq, between you is rights. Sometimes people oppress other people and they haven't even had a discussion. No discussion has taken place. You see? Or we have, for example, one person doesn't like a person, so he tells his friends who are also Muslim, don't like this person, don't like this brother, not even just anyone, don't like this other brother, this other Muslim. And the person says, yeah, this is my guy, this is my friend, my Sadiq. So yeah, I'm not going to like this other person because this is my friend. But this is not what Islam came with. Islam came with adl, that a person rules with justice. Justice. And these things have to be preserved. But this is an example from those who preceded us. They referred to those who oppressed them, took their right of them as being their akhi, their brother. So that's of the things that was mentioned. And it mentioned in summary, with this situation, Dawood alayhi salam, he gave ruling from only hearing one person's claim. And this is why Dawood alayhi salam, he sought forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because in that situation, in that case that was brought to him, he didn't hear the claim of the other person. And he gave a ruling. He gave a ruling. He said, لَقَدْ ظَلَمَكَ بِسُؤَالِ نَعْجَتِكَ إِلَى نَعَجِ. He has oppressed you by asking for your sheep to join his sheep. So without hearing the case of the other person, Dawood gave this ruling. And when he had felt that he had done something wrong within himself, and this is the asl of haya, that when you do something, you will feel discomfort within your own self. Immediately he sought forgiveness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Immediately. And they mentioned from that we also learn when there's any case of differences among the Muslims, before you take a side, before you make a judgment, you have to make sure you hear both sides. And you allow both sides to bring their case. And also in Tafsir Surah Al-Hujurat, of the ulama, they mentioned, فَأَصْلِحُوا بَيْنَ أَخَوَيْكُمْ. They say, كيف الإصلاح? How does a person make islah? Rectification. قالوا أن يجلس الجميع في طاولة بينهم لابد أن يتبين الظالم من المظلوم. They mentioned those who are in dispute, they are to be gathered together with those of wisdom who can judge between them. And it is a must, when you bring everyone together and allow them to bring their case, it is a must that it will become clear the one who is an oppressor and the one who's been oppressed. But when it comes to judging between people, you don't call your friend. You don't call someone you know within your heart, he's going to incline towards my case. La. You go for someone who's neutral. That is the asl. Someone who is a person of knowledge, neutral. Both parties is pleased with this person to judge between them. And you allow that case to be resolved between them. And if a person is sincere, it is going to be clear who has been wronged and who is doing the wronging. This is of the methods of Islah. And unfortunately, you have many who claim they are pushing for Islah, but they don't even know what Islah is. And because of this, they cause more harm than they bring about goodness. They don't bring about Islah, they bring about further distance between the Muslims, the brothers, and the general communities. If a person truly understood Islah, they will go about it the right way. They will go about it the right way. And it's also for a person to know these things necessitate knowledge. A person, you cannot make it up. I cannot say, okay, these two brothers are in dispute, I'm just going to make up a way to, I heard that it's okay to lie, just to bring them back together. But this also takes wisdom. It also you have to know when is the best time to do it. The things that you would even say, you cannot just make it up as you go along and just hope for goodness. Because some people do this and again, they cause more harm. That's why we mentioned, كَمْ مِن مُرِيدِ الْخَيْرِ لَمْ يُصِيبُهُ. As Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu said, how many people want good, but they don't attain it? Goodness is following the Quran and the Sunnah, with the understanding of the companions. Having knowledge precedes everything. If you don't have knowledge, you're going to cause destruction. You see? Kalam al-Sadid, Qawl al-Sadid is built upon knowledge. That statement of truth, correct speech, upright speech is preceded by knowledge. How many times do we see today people are teaching and they don't even give a benefit? They start talking about things that they are not even qualified to talk about. Why? Because they've run out of benefit. If you stop studying, you run out of benefit. Someone comes to you and says, Akhi, give me a fa'idah. I'm going through this, can you advise me? But then you have no benefit yourself. Why? Because you don't study. You don't study. So then you find young people like myself, we go on social media and we start giving rulings, fatwa. Hada halalun, hada haram. And we put ourselves in the forefront when we're not qualified to do so. This is a sign of qillatul ilm. that a person has run out of benefit. So they start to talk about things that is not for them. Of the things that you learn when you seek knowledge is knowing your place, when to speak and when to stay quiet. You see? And this has always been known. Of the things that has been known from the first prophecy is that what Allah had given every prophet, it was knowledge. Al-ilm. And they followed the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala based upon what? Al-ilm. Not hawa, not desires. This is of the things that they always warned against. This is of the things they always say, I am free from. If I follow your desires, then I'll be of those who are what? Misguided. So of those things that Islam has granted us as a nation is knowledge. And those who want to be of those who are high in rank in this dunya and in the hereafter, alaykum bil ilm, upon you is knowledge. And know that this takes time. Know that this takes time. It's not something that you say, okay, I study one book, khalas, I'm ready. La. You will know when you're ready. Your teacher will tell you. You will know you have benefit to tell the people. A person comes and asks you about Islam. This is where it starts. If someone comes to you, they're not even Muslim, and they say, as Jibreel alayhi salam came to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, akhbirni an al-Islam, inform me about Islam. Ask yourself, can you, off head, explain to them al-Islam bil-adillah? That you can explain Islam based upon evidence, not how you feel emotionally. Because that's your individual feeling. People try to give da'wah based on, Islam changed my life. I was at the bottom and then now I feel above the clouds. This is not knowledge. This is not something a person can go back and say, Islam calls to this. Islam gives kullu dhi haqqin haqqa. It gives everyone who has a right, their right. So ask yourself, if you cannot explain to a person what Islam is, then this is where you need to start. This is where you need to start. You see? Because as we mentioned, this hadith spoke about shyness. It spoke about that which has been known from the early prophecies, the that preceded us. If a person has no shyness, no modesty, they will do whatever they want. Even in Islam, you will talk about whatever you want. Because when you have no modesty, you follow your desires. You don't care. But when a person increases in knowledge, they will increase in haya. They will increase in modesty. Because of when we speak about the types of shyness now, هناك حياء ينقسم إلى قسمين. Shyness is divided into two categories. Al-haya bayn al-abd wa rabbi. This is the haya that is between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That modesty that you have that prevents you from disobeying Allah. That when you feel you're inclined to do an action, you remind yourself, is Allah going to be pleased with this action? How will Allah view me in this action? Is this something that is pleasing to Allah? Will I get reward for it? If yes, and it's based upon evidence, فَافْعَلْ. But if you know within yourself, even if it's a maybe, perhaps Allah will not be pleased with this, stay far away from it. Stay far away from it. And this is how you judge your affairs first and foremost. This is how you judge your affairs first and foremost. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam قال اتق الله حيثما كنت وأتبع السيئة الحسنة تمحها وخالق الناس بخلق حسن. The first, اتق الله حيثما كنت. Fear Allah wherever you are. This is haya min Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is a person having shyness and shame before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَأَتْبَعِ السَّيِّةِ الْحَسْنَةَ تَمْحُهَا. This is the right you have upon yourself. That when you find yourself doing something wrong, turn back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do something of goodness. That sin can be what? Erased. إِنَّ الْحَسَنَاتِ يُذْهِبْنَ السَّيِّئَاتِ. As the good actions, they erase the bad ones. وَهَذَا مِن رَحْمَةِ اللَّهِ. This is from Allah's mercy. وَخَالِقِ النَّاسِ بِخُلُقٍ حَسَنٍ. And treat the people with good manners. هذا حياء بين المخلوق. And this is the shyness between the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You see? So first and foremost, you are shy before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You cannot be shy before the creation and not have shyness towards Allah. This doesn't go in hand. Rather, this is a contradiction. Rather, it shows that a person, they do things to please the people, or they fear being seen by the people, but they don't fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Where it should be the other way around. First and foremost, you fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there's a story the ulama, many mention, of when there was a school and one boy was loved by this teacher more than others. And the parents, they complained about this. And his story is well known. And they mentioned the teacher said, I'll show you why I love this student in particular. And he commanded each student to get a chicken and go where no one can see you and slaughter the chicken. They went. Every student returned with no chicken. That student hadn't returned. The teacher asked, where did you slaughter yours? One says, fil ghar, in the forest or in the cave, far away from the people. One says, under the staircase. One said, they all had their story. The boy returned after some time and he still had the chicken. And the teacher says, why haven't you slaughtered the chicken? And he mentioned, no matter where I went, I knew that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could see me. And this is of those stories that is mentioned. Wallahu a'lam an sihhatihi, walakin al-ibra mawjuda. The lesson is there. As some people have this inclination from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in their natural fitrah, that a person knows no matter where you go, no matter where you are, what you're doing, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is aware. Allah huwa al-latif al-khabir. Nothing escapes the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah will make you know. ثُمَّ يُنَبِّئُكُمْ بِمَا كُنْتُمْ تَعْمَلُونَ. Allah is going to inform us on Yawm al-Qiyamah of everything that we should do. Those actions you forgot, those things that are small, Allah will inform you about it. So the first modesty and shame a person has to have is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That you know Allah is going to take you to account for your actions. And then after this comes the shyness between the people, and tukhalif al-muru'a, that you go against the general customs of the people. And the Shaykh, he gave examples. For example, if you're sitting in a circle of knowledge, and even for me, this was a big reminder, because even for me, when I sit down on the floor, I struggle. I get major pains. However, we should try to condition ourselves for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Go through that pain for a while. Train yourself to sit in the hay'ah, the mannerism of a talib al-ilm. It's not easy. This is part of it. This is part of the process. But the Shaykh mentioned, for example, he said, مثلا في المجلس العلمي لو أن إنسانا في الصف الأول مد رجليه. That a person is in a circle of knowledge, but he's in the front row. He's in the front row of the circle of knowledge, and he's just like this, sitting like both feet like this, facing the front. They say if you was to do this, هذا يخالف المروءة. This is what goes against the general conduct and mannerisms that you're supposed to have as a student of knowledge. And I've seen it myself. One time, and I'm not ashamed to say, it's part of when I was younger, we learned. I was in Kuwait studying, I was sitting in the majlis of one sheikh, and my feet was like that. Someone from 5 rows back signaled to tell me to not do this. And that day I learned, this goes against muru'ah. It's not something that's haram. It's something yukhalif al-muru'ah. It's like a sign of adam al-ihtiram lil-ilm wal-majalis al-ilm. You see? So we have to have respect for knowledge itself, the circles of knowledge, even the books. You have to have respect for the books. Some would say, you want to write something, don't lean on the book. Lean on something else. Some, if they saw you lean on your book, they will make inkar of that. They say, هذا يخالف المروءة. They'll say, this is not respect for the book. Not just any book, يعني كتب العلم, books of knowledge. You see, they shouldn't be used as a handrest or something like this. You see? Now this is what is referred to as muru'ah, going against that which is general customs among the people. And in some cases you have to observe this. You see? Because we don't want to have what is referred to as shuhra, to be of those who stand out. This is something that is dispraised. But what it did mention, he said, let's say for example, you had a condition or you was unable to sit in a certain way, you should seek permission from the teacher or the sheikh who's given that lesson if you're allowed to extend your feet. But if you just do it without seeking permission, then هذا يخالف المروءة. And that is that you don't have modesty and shyness among the creation. So those are of the things that are to be observed. And I mentioned in terms of shyness, it's of two types. Again, shyness that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has favored someone with from their natural state. Allah has given them this characteristic that you find they speak little, they only speak when it's necessary. You will find, even when I teach in the madrasa, I was speaking to a parent today, and I told this parent, your son is like this. He doesn't speak unless he needs to speak. If I ask him directly, you won't catch him speaking. Very reserved, keeps himself to himself. He doesn't even look at you. If he looks at you, you can't help but like smile out of shyness. And this is of those things that Allah gives to some people naturally. You see? And then you also have you have it in a way that people work for it. Especially some of us, we came to Islam from Jahiliyyah. We had ways before, we had to change. This is something we conditioned ourselves for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You had to make those changes. Again, this is also from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because Allah enabled you to do this. It's from Allah's favor, one with Islam, that Allah favored you with Islam, and then favored you with knowledge that Islam comes with certain adab, certain mannerisms. And sometimes those who haven't been able to travel to the Muslim lands, you don't even get to see this. Of the benefits you will find from anyone who has lived among the Muslims, of those things that will emphasize to you is adab, manners. In Kuwait, for example, I've been to a certain mashaykh's house, and the son of the sheikh doesn't sit down until that majlis is complete. He will stand up the whole time that gathering is occurring, holding a jug of tea. Anyone who wants tea, he is running to pour that tea. And this is the son of the sheikh. He will not sit in that gathering with you. He is waiting for the command to pour tea. And there may be 40 people there. And the sheikh's children will be the ones, and they're holding the jugs of tea, and they're not putting that down. And that's from the manners we learn. Sometimes you go to your fellow Muslim's house, and unfortunately, they won't even offer you water, let alone tea. All we have today, people don't even want people to know where they live. Or, don't give out my number to the Muslims unless you seek my permission. Make things difficult. Secret life. Whereas the Sahaba, just from the hadith of Jibril, we learn how the companions were. When Jibril ittala alayna rajulun, that part when he comes to mention that man came upon us, of the things that Umar bin Khattab said, la ya'rifuhu minna ahadun. No one from among us knew who this person was. What does that show? The companions, they knew who each other were. They knew who each other were. They mentioned, how did the companions know someone was even sick or someone was not around? Because they didn't see them in the jama'ah for salah. But unfortunately now today, because we don't have this, these mannerisms are lost. Some of us have never read a book on manners alone. We don't understand about visiting the sick. We don't even know when someone's sick. If someone, we don't see them, khalas, we didn't see them, we don't follow up. And next thing you know, we hear, one of the brothers, he died, was at home 2 weeks, no one knew. Or someone comes out and says, I was in hospital for 2 weeks, no one visited me, and they're upset. No one even knew they were in hospital. Why? Because we don't have that mahabba wal ma'rifa baynana. We don't have that love and general acquaintances among us. You see? But some people, sometimes the least people you expect it from, but I haven't seen you for some time. Are you okay? You see? But these are from those manners that you will learn when you live among the Muslims. Why? Because that was the tarbiyah that they were being given from an early age. And sometimes, as a general advice, when we come to Islam as new, or we know of those who have embraced Islam as new, it's important that they go through something that talks about adab, manners. Even if you just ponder over the advice of Luqman to his son, he even told him about not raising your voice. Don't turn your cheek from the people. Don't walk in a way that is arrogant. These are of the ways that a person to condition himself upon good manners. And when a person conditions themselves to have good manners, they will become someone who is modest. Someone that haya, someone who has this shyness, this modesty, that they look at, first and foremost, how does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala see this person? How is my relationship with Allah? And then they look at, after that, because that is the most important, how am I seen by the people? Am I someone people feel comfortable to talk to? Do I have good relationships with the people? How am I to my neighbors? These are things that you have to look at. Because again, these things reflect what? Something that has been prohibited and made sacred among the Muslims. Your honor. Your manners affect your honor. If you are someone who's not modest, you become known for this. For example, Ahlul Zina, they have no shyness. They do not care. We have heard cases upon cases. It's not like this person fell into it once. Continuous. And it's only when they get caught, they show some remorse or some regret. To an extent. But then when the storm falls, you find they go straight back to it. Why? Because they have no shyness. And again, we mentioned shyness is an action of the heart. Most amrad al-ma'nawiyya, we say not those physical illnesses, those spiritual illnesses, those illnesses of the heart. That's what affects a person. Because as we learned in hadith number 4, Salamullah, Ala wa inna fil jasadi mudgha. In the body there is a morsel of flesh. إذا صلحت صلح الجسد كله. If it is upright, then the whole body will be upright. وإذا فسدت فسد الجسد كله. ألا وهي القلب. However, if it is corrupt, then the whole body will be corrupt. Is it not that is the heart? So even these mannerisms, they are a condition of the heart that you have to always cleanse your heart. Tazkiyat al-nafs. Purify your heart. Tawakkul, khashya, khawf, rahba. These are all actions of the heart. So a person has to purify their heart. And these actions, more so, majority of them are between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when you rectify that which is in your heart, this will reflect in your actions, as is in the hadith. When the heart is upright, this is reflected in your actions. Your actions will show. But when you see a person behaving in a certain way, has no shyness, no modesty, then you have to look at the person's heart. Not literally, I mean like there is an issue in a person's heart. There are sicknesses of the heart that have to be rectified. But you have to put in that effort. And that's why I mentioned some of these adab, these manners, Allah has favored some within their natural state, from they were created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And some Allah has guided that they try their best to earn this characteristic. They try their best to earn this characteristic. For example, it mentions Imam Shafi'i, when he mentions this line of poetry of how a person should seek knowledge, أخي لن تنال العلم إلا بستة سأنبيك عن تفصيلها ببيان حرص ذكاء وحرص واجتهاد وبلغة والصحبة أستاذ وطول زمان. He mentioned, my brother, you will never attain knowledge except for by 6 things. And I will inform you about them with clarity. ذكاء, the first thing he mentioned is being intelligent, clever. وحرص, and being keen, having keen desire to learn, to seek knowledge. واجتهاد, that you put in effort. لا يؤخذ العلم بالراحة. Knowledge is not taken by rest. وبلغة, بلغة mentioned that you gain sustenance that will facilitate you to go and seek knowledge. For example, a person may have intention to travel. They may work for 6 months. That will suffice them to go and seek knowledge for a period of time. That's of the things to be done. وَصُحْبَةُ أُسْتَاذٍ, you have to have a teacher. مَنْ كَانَ شُيُوخُهُ كُتُبَهُ فَأَخْطَأُهُ أَكْثَرَ مِنْ صَوَابِهِ. Whoever takes his books as his teachers, then his mistakes will be more than his things that he gets correct. وَطُولُ الزَّمَانِ, it takes time. But the first thing that was mentioned in the line of poetry was ذكاء, intelligence. And even in this, they mentioned ذكاء is either that Allah has given it to someone naturally. Sometimes you see a child who comes to the madrasa or his school or tahfidh al-Quran, and you have these cases. You give a child Surah Al-Baqarah to memorize. One child, it might take him 6 months. This child, it took him 3 weeks. You have cases like this. This is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You see? But sometimes a person can train themselves. You find there's methods that a person can train themselves to better their memory or to become intelligent. Again, this is also from Allah. You must never forget that which you have of goodness is from who? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So never deceive yourself and solely believe this is me. I done this. I put in this effort. La. Hada min Allah. Allah is the one who guided you to this. And this is the difference between Hidayat al-Irshad wa Hidayat al-Tawfiq. Hidayat al-Irshad, that Allah gives you general guidance. Hidayat al-Tawfiq is that Allah guides you to knowledge, beneficial knowledge and action. So you show gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But it's also to inform you that because you may not have been naturally intelligent, you didn't find it easy to memorize, this doesn't mean you cannot do it. Some people make excuse. They say, I've reached 50, I can't memorize Quran. I can tell you, I went to a place where they were given ijazat. There was a man who was 71 years old when he started, and he finished when he was 73. He memorized the whole Quran. They gave him an ijazah. He memorized the whole Quran in 2 years with firm hifz. And they said this old man was so old, he would sit in the masjid. The tahfidh is separate from the masjid. The teacher would finish with his students and come down to him because he couldn't go up those stairs. But he didn't say, I'm too old, I have bad memory. La. He sought, yani ista'ana billah. He sought Allah's assistance and then he memorized Quran. So some things you may not have now, but it doesn't mean you can't have it. So showing there's some manners that we don't have. Wasn't there times when the Prophet said to some of the companions, مَا زِلْتَ فِيكَ شَيْءٍ مِنْ جَاهِلِيَّةٍ, you still have something of jahiliyyah. And then they would immediately, unlike us, unfortunately, when the companions heard the command from Allah Azza wa Jal, and then the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu immediately they acted upon it. Us, we come with 100 excuses. I'm not like that. That's not my character. I don't like to smile. We don't even make the effort. Even such as giving salams to those who you know and those who you don't know. These things are in actions that we have to work on ourselves first and foremost. When you work on yourself first and foremost, you will see the impact it has on others. But you do it for the sake of Allah. These manners, modesty, is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not to be praised by the people. You don't care what the people have to say in praise of you. Because some people, when they don't hear the praise, they stop. It affects them. Don't get, mashallah, mubarak alayk, akhi, you're doing so well. When they don't hear this, they stop functioning. Some people live for this. And this is of the diseases of this generation now. And social media and the youth. If they don't get 100 likes on their picture, a girl doesn't get 100 likes, she wants to get surgery. She wants to change the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Or they say, I'm not beautiful. They want to commit suicide and the likes. Why? Because they have no self-respect. No modesty of themselves between them and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first and foremost. Their life is based on what everyone else thinks of them. You'll find a person comes to seek your advice to make a major decision in their life. And they ask you, what do you think I should do? I'm not the one doing it. It's not my life. And you find they make decisions in their life based upon what everyone else wants them to do, not what they actually want to do for themselves. And this is also what leads to peer pressure. Youth, a young person living in a certain area, everyone's in a gang. He feels he has to be in a gang. Because if he doesn't be in a gang, which he doesn't want to, what he wants to do, he doesn't want to be in a gang, it's not going to please those guys. Or some of us, we was in gangs, we left gangs to practice Islam, but because everyone's criticizing us now, oh, you left, oh, this, that, the other, because we don't have that quwwat nafsiyah, that strong self-esteem, we go straight back. And this is all part of the process of being patient upon the harms that come with it. You see? But know that you can always change. You can always change. But first and foremost, you have to change for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You have to change for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when you see this, you're changing. You're beautifying yourself with these manners. If you read like Adab al-Mufrad, Imam Bukhari, rahimahullah, you go through those manners. You go through Durus al-Muhimma, Shaykh bin Baz, rahimahullah, in Durus al-Muhimma, important lessons for every Muslim. In the end of it, he put manners. Because it's an important lesson that the Muslims have to know. He got a chapter on manners that you should have. These are the things you have to go back and read and judge yourself. How am I in that regard? I was reading a book about manners, and by the time I read it, wallahi, I feel like I don't have manners. An example that is common, and I'm going to mention this example, which is a common example. I'm narrating an event that occurred. Me and Islam, we both know the event, but I'm the one narrating it. I'm narrating to you, Islam cuts me and finishes the story. That is bad manners. And this happens so much. Even if you say, for example, I'm your teacher, for example, you have a benefit that you've learnt. I may have known this benefit for years. When you come to share that benefit with me, I should act like I never heard it before. As there were statements of the Salaf, they said, a young person came and told me a benefit I heard 30 years before he was even born. But I would still pretend or still act as if I hadn't heard it before. These are from manners. This is why, but when we look at manners, sometimes our image of manners is very short-sighted. We start to think of disrespect only. But it's more than that. These things as well. Also from manners, when you gain a benefit, sometimes, for example, a person shares a benefit, and you take that benefit and narrate it as if you came with the benefit. You should always attribute the benefit to the companion of the benefit. If I read a book and I saw a benefit and I narrate that benefit, I cannot act like I said that benefit. That benefit came from me. No, I refer to the companion of the benefit. That is also from manners. These are the things that we have to observe, because many times someone has a good status. It's a beneficial reminder, and everyone takes it and it's actually as if they did it. That's from me. That's how it appears. You should always attribute the benefit to the companion of the benefit, because this is knowledge, and of those things that benefit you, especially when you pass away, ilmun yuntafa'u bi, knowledge that other people benefit from. So from the rights of that person who gave the benefit is that you attribute it to them so that they still get that reward, so that people still make dua for them. Not that it comes back to you as if it's from you. It's not from you. You see? And this is also of those things that, because we are negligent of manners, we miss out on these things. So a general advice, especially after looking at this hadith, that is short but immense in benefit, go back and take one book of manners, adab. Or if it's not a book, a chapter of adab from a book of hadith, and look at all those things over time and try your best to start making these things have an impact in your life. To beautify yourself foremost for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I promise you, if you do this, and many of us do this, it will reflect in our community. People will see, and then you advise others to do so. It will only bear fruits of goodness. Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. So if that, inshallah ta'ala, will come to an end. And as I mentioned, those who are memorizing the 40 hadith, by the time you finish, inshallah, be tested, you've memorized them, and there will be a knowledge-based gift. Knowledge-based gift. I'm not into buying these expensive shoes, electrical items. A knowledge-based gift. A knowledge-based gift, inshallah ta'ala. As that is what we have seen from some of the mashaykh. They don't give you a trainer's that is expensive. We want you to turn away from these things. You see, not being attached to dunyawiya items, but something of knowledge-based, inshallah ta'ala, as a means of encouragement. Not that you only memorize the hadith for this. You memorize this as an encouragement to do it, inshallah ta'ala. That's it. So if there's any questions based on what I've said only, as you know me, anything outside of that, we don't do that, inshallah.
Just to touch on the customs of like the people, the thing regarding sitting with one's feet facing forward, not in a dance or the rules, but in general. When I first came to the deen, which was about 10 years ago, I got told that's haram.
It's not haram.
Yes, that's what they said. Obviously, I came to allow it, I know it's not. But how do you deal with, like, you know, a lot of people, they just follow their forefathers. Like my granddad told me, my dad told me, and so forth, that, you know, you can't do it. Even like, it was like revert brothers who just got passed on, who told me, weren't like a typical, whatever, culture or born Muslim people tell us revert brothers. But when a few years down the line, look at the peers, I query and say, where do I do that for that kind of thing? There's a lot of misconception. That also leads me to my second question. When it comes to following a sunnah, what the people's not accustomed to, how do you go about it, or should you leave off it because they're not used to it, like i.e. doing one tasbih, you know?
So type. In regards to the first question, when we learn, for example, principles like everything dunyawiya, worldly matters is halal, unless proven haram. That necessarily, anyone who comes to tell you something is haram, they must bring evidence. It's not for you to bring evidence. But as for ibadah, this is tawqifiyya. Now the asl is al-mana', is that it's prohibited until you have dalil, until you have evidence. So for you, the person who says, give me evidence, they don't have to bring evidence for what you're doing. You have to bring it now, when it comes to matters of ibadah. As for matters of just worldly matters, the asl is that it's halal until something proves that it is haram. So in general, when it comes to matters of the sunnah that are nadira, that are not widespread, or not widespread, that's the wrong word, it happened in few cases, rare, then the ulama, they mention, it's not sunnah to do it as if it was something the Prophet always did. You see, some people, for example, they know there was maybe a narration, the Prophet gave taslim once, a few times, but then they would do it all the time. The ulama mentioned this is not sunnah. The sunnah, if it was done nadiran, then you do it nadiran. You don't do it as if it was ghaliban, that it was a majority of the time. You see? And you find in circumstances like this, you have to educate the people. You see? But you also may say, the reason why I'm doing this is because the Prophet did it. But it wasn't done all the time, but just so it's not forgotten. So it's not a forgotten thing. For example, And someone said it yesterday. After salah, the masjid is quiet. But the dhikr, the adhkar should be said with a bit of a raised voice. Not shouting, but it should be heard. It shouldn't be in silence. You see? But this is of the things that people don't do as well. So you're not going to shout, but you're going to say, for example, astaghfirullah, 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 in a way that can be heard. But as a means to teach other people, this is from the sunnah. You see? But something that was done, nadiran, you leave it as being nadiran. Don't do it all the time. You see? And then you have the case, some people do things, and Allah knows best their intention, but some people like to just do things to say, yeah, it's a sunnah. But them themselves don't even understand the principle of it being a sunnah that is not ghaliban. It's something the Prophet ﷺ done very few times. Very few times. You see? For example, relieving yourself standing up. This wasn't done all the time. Hence why Aisha radhiyallahu anha, she said, whoever says that the Prophet ﷺ urinated while he was standing, then they have lied. But Hudayfa ibn Yaman narrated that he did. Why? Because he was there when it happened. But it's not something you can say it happened all the time. You see? So it's about how do you understand the sunnah in general. Because in general, and this is just even a reminder to myself, the level of what we have studied, sometimes we're not in a place to be saying this is the sunnah like this. Because us ourselves, our knowledge is very basic, surface level. You see? As for the in-depth study of sunnah, you ask the person, what have we studied enough to make these decisions and judgments? You see? Because sometimes you're going to find there's many hadith that affirm things authentically, but one came before the other. If you haven't studied, you can't just say, I've read the hadith so I can do it. No, you have to know. Because perhaps this action is even mansukh. For example, it's more than just, I read the hadith, I'm going to act upon it. You have to go back to those books that are mu'tamada fi shuruh, that will make these things clear to you. And even tawjihat of how you act upon those hadith. You see? Because Umar spoke about the issue of the taslim before. You see? Because it wasn't something the Prophet ﷺ did all the time. But you find some countries, they've made it a thing of ilzam, you have to do it. And these are different circumstances. You see? But if it's something rare, then leave it as being rare. Inshallah. خلاص جزاكم الله خيرا سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك اشهد ان لا اله الا انت استغفرك واتوب اليك. Inshallah ta'ala, next week we'll continue. When the salah time changes to 8 o'clock, then the class may change the time, inshallah. But I'll update everyone, inshallah, maybe between Maghrib and Isha, inshallah. But we will see. We'll make that decision closer to the time in discussion, what works best for everyone, inshallah ta'ala. Now, jazakum Allah khairan. Assalamu alaikum.